So much. Okay, we're ready? Yes. Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the September 18, 2025 regular meeting of the Finance and Risk Management Committee, FRMC. I am Vitas Yamani, Chair of the FRMC, representing the City of National City. We welcome members of the public, community power staff, and committee members joining us in person at the City of Chula Vista Council Chambers. I now call the FRMC meeting to order. Ms. Sandra, would you please call the roll?
Director Insunza,
I'm here.
Vice Chair Suzuki,
Present.
Chair Yamani.
Here.
I have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Let us all stand, please, and let us turn and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Insunza, would you please do the honor?
Please stand if you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, sir. We can now. Next, we acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the land of the original inhabitants of the Greater San Diego region. A land acknowledgement is a critical step toward working with Native communities to create meaningful partnerships and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homelands. Let's take a moment to honor these ancestral grounds that were the traditional lands of the Kumeyaay. Thank you. Are there any items to be added, withdrawn, or recorded on the agenda?
There are none, Madam Chair.
Or none. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Non-agenda public comment. We will now pick up non-agenda public comments. Any written public comments submitted before the FRMC meeting were emailed to committee members prior to the meeting and will be posted on the website. Ms. Sandra, do we have any non-agenda public comment?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. We will now move on to the consent calendar. Item number 1, approve August 21st, 2025 meeting minutes. Do any of the committee members wish to pull the consent calendar item? Sandra, do we have any public comment on the consent calendar?
No, Madam Chair.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Are there any committee members question or motion? I have a motion by Councilmember Insunza. Second by Vice Chair Suzuki. Any other comments? Seeing none, Ms. Sandra, please call the roll.
Director Insunza,
Yes.
Vice Chair Suzuki,
Aye.
Chair Yamani.
Aye.
Motion carries, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We will now move on to our regular agenda items. Item number 2, Treasurer's Report for fiscal year ending June 30. Dr. Eric Washington, Chief Financial Officer, Treasurer, and Mr. Dan Delaney with Chalco Asset Manager will present this item. Sandra, do we have any public comments on this item?
There are none, Madam Chair.
Are there any committee member comments or questions on items number 2 after the report of Dr. Washington?
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. Directors, thank you for your time to the public community power staff. For the record, I'm Dr. Eric Washington, Treasurer, Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer at San Diego Community Power. I'll be reporting the Treasurer's Report for the fiscal year ending period 6/30/2025. I'm happy to report when we look at when we compare our actual results to our budgeted results, we finished ahead of budget with a change in that position. The bottom line number of $112 million, which was approximately $78 million over our projected budget. Contributing to those results were lower than expected uncollectible rates, which landed us about $20 million over budget in terms of net revenue. Also contributing to that number was a lower than expected or energy savings on the cost of energy, which is the largest budget item in our budget. And then also contributing further to that was investment earnings, which you'll hear from a little later during this presentation from our investment advisor. All in, we finished ahead of budget, which bodes well for the continued efforts of staff to review costs and save costs where possible, as well as benefiting from the lower than expected cost of energy. Next slide, please. We also monitor our liquidity and days cash on hand. So with the contribution of the $112 million to our net position, which also contributes to our reserve, when we look at unrestricted cash levels and take into consideration our access to the line of credit, we landed about 63% on a pure cash basis, unrestricted cash basis, towards our targeted goal. Next slide, please. This slide shows a historic build of reserves over time. When we layer in the access to credit under the line of credit, we ended up with 180 days cash on hand. Looking purely from a cash perspective, we landed at 112 days cash on hand. Next slide, please. So I'm also happy to report that our participation rates remain stable at about 95, 96%, meaning our customers are electing to stay with Community Power, where we're able to provide clean, renewable energy resources consistently throughout the region. At this time, I'm going to ask Dan Delaney, our investment advisor, to provide us with a report out. Next slide, please. With a report out of our investment portfolio, give us an overview from an economics perspective, what's happening in the economy, as well as taking a look at our compliance with the portfolio compared to our investment policy. So that, Mr. Delaney, I will yield to you for the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Good afternoon, members of the committee. Great to be back here representing Chandler, your investment advisor. We really enjoy our partnership and we're very grateful for the support of Community Power business. So we'll start with the economy and we're going to relate it to how the portfolio has been performing and how we expect it to perform in the near to medium term. So when we talk about the economy, particularly the growth side, we think about the labor market. We're a consumer-driven economy, and what drives spending decisions is job security and wage growth. The left-hand chart shows new jobs created, non-farm payrolls, which pretty much ground to a halt now. They've been slowly declining, and now we're in a position where very few, if any, net jobs are being created, partly due to tariffs. That's creating some uncertainty in terms of job creation. But really, this has been going on for a while because interest rates are still relatively high and constraining certain parts of the economy, certainly lower-income consumers, sectors like residential and commercial real estate as well. But the good news is that they're coming down. And they are coming down because on the other side of the Fed's mandate, it's not only employment, but it's also inflation. We've done a big round trip. So inflation went up a lot during 2022, as we know, and has come down also quite a lot. It's not quite at the Fed's target, which is for prices to rise by around 2% every year. It's closer to 3%, but it's near enough to give them comfort that they can lower rates without stoking inflation. And they're definitely more worried about the employment side of that mandate for now. So you probably saw this yesterday, big decision. The Fed cut rates by 0.25%, 4.5 to 4.25. And you can see this big leap that they took in 2022, which is quite unusual because it's usually stairway up, gradual, and elevator down. And this way, the last time it was elevator up in terms of raising rates very quickly. And this time we think it's going to be more stairway down, gradual. But they did embark on the next round of cuts. And we do think they're going to continue to cut gradually throughout the next 6 to 12 months. So that is good news, we think, for the economy, good news for your investments. And the bond market has been reacting to that already. We have seen yields gradually coming down. And if you extended this chart beyond June through to where we are now in August, September, yields have come down further. But the real change has been in the yield curve. And that is the different maturities you can invest in on the treasuries. From 0 out to 30 years, we've seen a steepening, which is quite usual when the Fed cuts. You see lower rates come down, and longer term yields stay relatively higher. And the message to our clients is to, you've been enjoying high cash yields for some time, and that's been great. But where you have excess liquidity, you should really be thinking about moving out along the yield curve, locking in some of these rates. Very pleased to report that the staff have been very proactive in that regard. We've been doing exactly that, and we'll show you just how many. Go back to slide. So we have our investment objectives, and these are defined in your investment policy. Safety, liquidity first, return will always follow if you take care of the first two. We have a benchmark. Our value add is to outperform that benchmark over time. We want to do it in a safe manner that allows you all to sleep well at night, but also enjoy some real dollars going back to your agency and to your communities. And we have a strategy, and it's very simple. You diversify across some very high quality sectors that are safe, liquid, and add additional yield, and over time, that will produce the results you need. So this is a snapshot of the portfolio as of the end of your fiscal year, June 30, and compared to the previous quarter, March. It's quite a big jump in value. Let me explain why that is. We made a big concerted effort to onboard all of Community Power's investments, not only the ones that we manage, but all of the investments onto our reporting platform as of the end of the fiscal year. Because ultimately, we want to provide holistic advice across all of your investments, even the ones that we don't manage internally. And perhaps more importantly, we want to produce a compliance statement on all of your portfolio, which shows that you're in compliance with California Government Code and with your investment policy. So that's what we've achieved and what we will continue to do going forward. You can see that the average purchase yield was around 3.3%. The average quality was very high, and like I said, big jump in market value, but you have a total investment portfolio of almost 400 million as of the end of the fiscal year. Probably the most important page in the pack, your compliance statement. You are compliant with California Code and your policy across all these different parameters across the entirety of your investment program. There's lots of parameters. 3 pages worth, but it's all compliant. And we report this on a monthly basis, not just quarterly. And now we're going to go into the portfolio that we manage. It has a different strategy. It does take advantage of those longer term yields. And so it does have a longer maturity profile. And we can invest out to 5 years, and the average maturity of the portfolio is around 2.5 years. The most important number, I think, in terms of forward-looking performance is this purchase yield. So I want to focus on that. You have a purchase yield of 4.3%. Today, if you were to go out in the market today and try and buy a 2 or 3 year treasury, you would get 3.5%. So you have locked in 72 million. Actually, now it's more like almost 100 million for the same purchase yield at 4.25%, 4.3%. That bodes very, very well as rates continue to come down. You'll enjoy good interest income and capital appreciation. So when I spoke about gradually locking in these rates over the past year, the staff have done a great job of doing that. And we have almost 100 million as of today invested in that strategy. We diversify across all these high quality sectors. The bulk of the portfolio is in good old treasuries. We think treasuries are great. They offer a very compelling risk-free yield above that. That's a level of inflation. So we love having the bulk of the portfolio in treasuries. And then around that, we build in these high quality sectors, corporates, agency mortgages, AAA rated asset-backed securities, as you can see. This is the distribution by quality. It's all very high quality. The US government used to be AAA, now it's AA. So most of the portfolios are AA rated securities. Those are treasuries. But you do have some AAA rated securities, and the corporate bonds, I would say, are very high quality compared to what is allowed per code. Invest into somewhat lower rated securities by code, but we're quite conservative in what we buy. So very high quality. And you diversify, I keep saying diversify, but it matters a lot. Diversification is the first line of defense and where you get your returns from, but we're diversified by maturity. So if you ever wanted to run down this portfolio to create extra liquidity and not sell, you could do that organically and let these maturities roll off. We've done that by laddering out the portfolio. And this is the return, this is through June, and we really started the performance period from, so I see it, the 1st of October, I believe. So less than a year. It returned 3%. As of today, it's more like 4.5% total return. That includes capital appreciation and interest. But again, go back to that purchase yield figure, because that is the figure that is going to dictate the returns over the next few years, and it is a very attractive figure. This is the reporting account. So we manage, as of the end of June, around 70 million, but the bulk of the investment program is in more liquid investments, around 300 million as of the end of June. Getting very, very high quality, some of them in relatively high yielding securities like CDRs, and some of them are in slightly lower yielding investments, namely collateralized bank deposits. And what we have been doing with staff is working together to optimize your liquidity. The liquidity for the community is probably going to be higher than a city. Some of you manage your city finances, and you'll typically run less in short-term liquidity and have more in long-term investments. I think for a CPA, it's typically more in short-term liquidity. But what we want to do is optimize that liquidity. And so to that end, we've gone through the process of updating the investment policy, as you know, to allow investments in LAIF. I know that's an agenda item. But also, a few months ago, we did put some language in the policy to invest in other local government investment pools, provide a very attractive yield and daily liquidity. So we're trying to optimize those short-term investments. That is it. I've rattled through that pretty quickly. Excuse me for that, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. Delaney, right? Thank you. Daniel Delaney, thank you. Any other additional comments, Mr. Washington? Dr. Washington?
Again, thank you, Mr. Delaney, for joining us this afternoon. And then, Madam Chair, this item is to receive and file the Treasurer's report for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020.
Thank you, sir. Members, do you have any question, any comment? Mr. Delaney, then economic update, would you mind sharing that with me? I like that report.
Sure.
You
can do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you can share that, if you can give it to our Dr. Washington, he can send it to us. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So this is a receive and file. And the recommendation is to receive and file Treasurer's report for period ending June 30, 2025. We'll now go to item number 3, recommend board adoption of resolution authorizing the investment of monies in Local Agency Investment Fund, LAIF. Dr. Eric Washington, Chief Financial Officer, Treasurer, will present this item. Ms. Sandra, do we have any public comment on this item?
There are none, Madam Chair.
There are none. Dr. Washington, it's your time, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, this item is to allow us to, again, leverage monies that we have with the intent to make sure they're in a safe vehicle, as well as earn the highest possible yield on those holdings. So we're seeking approval for authorization to enroll in the Local Agency Investment Fund, also known as LAIF, that's managed by the State Treasurer's Office, which was established, the LAIF program was established in 1977 under Section 16429.1 of the California Government Code. So this will allow us to deposit monies into the LAIF, again, to better increase the yield that we'll have on those funds. So next slide, please. So LAIF will allow us to deposit up to $75 million into the program, and it will support up to 15 transactions per month. Authorization for us to invest in this vehicle will allow us to increase our yield on some monies held in various other investments that are lower yielding by about 2%. So we currently have monies held in accounts where we earn about 2%, 2.25%, investment in Lake will increase that to about 4% to 4.25%. So again, continue to support our reserve build and making sure that we're deploying those reserve funds to continue to feed that strategic goal. So this transaction will not have any direct fiscal impact on the agency. However, again, the earnings on those funds will contribute to continue reserve build as well as support our operating needs as we move forward through the fiscal cycle. Next slide, please. So, Madam Chair, that concludes the presentation of this item. Again, the recommendation is to adopt the resolution that will authorize investment of funds in the local agency investment. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. Are there any comments from members? No comment. So just question, and I think I asked this, that 75 million with 15 transaction for now, that would be sufficient for our needs.
Yes, Madam Chair, this would actually give us added flexibility in the sense that typically a money market account will allow up to 6 transactions per month, albeit there's no dollar amount that you can hold in that account. But again, it would support our needs. Historically, we haven't had to make that many transactions from that account. So this would more than adequately support our needs moving forward.
And then you said that any interest that we earn there can be allotted or directed to our 37% unmet reserve.
It can be contributed to reserve, and it's more clearly spelled out in our investment policy that gives us a framework on how those earnings can be deployed throughout the organization, including this continued reserve.
So with the uncertainties of interest rates right now, Mr. Delaney said you said that about 2.5 right now we're earning, but then this LAIF will yield us about 4%. Is that guaranteed?
I won't say, and Mr. Delaney, feel free to weigh here, that it's guaranteed, but historically it's been supportive of that level of yield on those.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other comments? No. So the recommendation is to recommend board adoption of resolution authorizing the investment of monies in local agency investment fund. May I have a motion for my members, please?
Motion approved.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second from Vice. If there's no other comments, please call the roll.
Director Insunza,
Yes.
Vice Chair Suzuki,
Aye.
Chair Yamani.
Yes. Thank you so much. We'll now go to item number 4, recommend board adoption of resolution approving revision to the non-energy procurement policy. Mr. Timang Hikmot, Director of Finance, and Christopher Stephens, Procurement Manager, joining us online, will present this item. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comment on this item?
There are none, Madam Chair.
So, Mr. Tin.
Good afternoon, Chair Yamani, Vice Chair Suzuki, and Director Insunza. My name is Timothy Mangelmott, Director of Finance, for the record. And as Chair Yamani mentioned earlier, I do have the pleasure of being joined online by Christopher Stephens, our Manager of Procurement. This is going to be one, again, of a series of policies that we're bringing to the FRMC. So we're back. I do want to quickly thank Christopher Stephens, who's online, who did the majority of the work. Unfortunately, couldn't join us in person, so I have the pleasure of kind of presenting on his behalf and all the good work that he's done. So as a reminder to the committee, SCCP kind of has 2 different procurement policies. We have our energy risk management policy, which governs procurement for energy resources. The policy that's in front of the board or the committee today is a policy that governs our non-energy contracting procurement for the agency. So the last time the procurement policy was updated was back in 2022. So it's been a while since we've gone back to the board with any kind of update. And since that update to the board back in 2022, the agency has matured drastically since that time. And also at the same time, kind of the threshold for RFPs and RFQs for competitive solicitation has remained at 125,000 since 2020 in the original adoption. So one of the big reasons why we're bringing this update to the board is to update this policy that hasn't been touched in a couple of years. And then at the same time, I mentioned that $125,000 threshold because inflation has occurred every single year, and we've never increased that threshold since the 2020 timeframe. So it's about time for an update to this policy, especially as we've matured as an agency. Next slide. So what are we actually updating in the policy? I kind of alluded to the first one earlier, kind of the bigger one, that we're proposing to increase the threshold for competitive solicitations, such that we're increasing it from 125,000 to 150,000. So anything over and above 150,000 requires a formal solicitation, and either an RFP or an RFQ. The policy update also includes a fair number of just clarifying kind of statements that just are more robust than the previous policy. So just some examples of that include much more clearer criteria for sole sourcing, which is a very common thing that a lot of government agencies do. It also clarified kind of the emergency procedure that's delegated over to the CEO in terms of just defining what falls under that scenario. And then I guess in addition to just some clarifications, there are some additions that are very common for public agencies, including City of Chula Vista, City of National City, City of oh gosh, just I can't forget the name. I had a long night last night.
Mesa.
La Mesa. Apologies for that.
So much.
I was just there at the farmers market this weekend.
You have to come to our farmers.
It's a really nice farmers market.
No, Oktoberfest.
Yeah, so sorry, before I got sidetracked there, one of the key provisions that impact all of your policies is the concept of just piggybacking or just cooperative procurements, whereby we can add on to existing procurements that have already followed kind of a competitive procedure. So really, in summary, the policy really is doing a big, massive update for a more mature agency. And again, increasing the thresholds up to the $150,000 mark to kind of align with the inflation that at least we've seen over the course of the last few years. Next slide. So with that, Chair Yamani, I'll turn it back over to you for questions.
Thank you, sir. Director Mandikmut, thank you so much for that report. Are there any committee member comments, questions, or motion for item number 4? This is to recommend board adoption of resolution approving revision with the non-energy procurement policy.
I have a quick question. So I saw that legal services agreements were added to the proposed update. Does that mean that it's going to be put out to bid because it wasn't put out to bid before?
Well, it was put out to bid, but it would allow the flexibility to contract for legal services without having to go through that bid. So as you know, there's lots of reasons why you would pick a law firm for their specialized skills that can often be attorney specific. So a lot of public agencies have an allowance that allows for non-competitive bidding for legal services. So we're just adding that in now that we have in-house counsel, something that I'd like to be able to do.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. No other questions. I moved to
In-house counsel.
fantastic in-house counsel. I moved to adopt.
Thank you, council member.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. I just have a comment. Thank you so much for making sure that we're diligent and prudent in making sure that our policy is up to date and revisited. That's just a responsibility and a fiduciary as a public agency. Thank you so much. Madam Secretary, I have a motion and a second, and I don't have any more comments. Please call the roll.
Director Insunza?
Yes.
Vice Chair Suzuki?
Aye.
Chair Yamani?
Aye.
Motion carries. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Madam Secretary. We'll now go to item number 5. This is also a recommend board adoption of resolution approving revisions to the delegated contract authority policy and rescinding resolution number 2022-10. Director Mandikmut, it's your turn again, sir.
Thank you,
Oh,
Chair.
sorry, Director. Ms. Sandra, do we have any public comment on this item?
No.
We do not. Okay, Director, it's your presentation, sir.
Thank you, Chair Yamani. And again, I'm joined online by Christopher Stevens, Manager of Procurement. So I have the pleasure again of presenting for the second item here to recommend board approval for an update to the delegated contract authority policy. The committee has seen this slide before, so kind of an ongoing effort led by the General Counsel to my left. We're doing an internal review of many policies to kind of update either old ones or add additional policies where there might be some policy gaps. So the delegated contract authority policy is a companion policy to the procurement policy that was just presented in the slide before, or in the item before this one. And then this is also, again, falling into the kind of cleanup slash make it more robust effort in terms of policies that already exist. Next slide, please. So the agency already has a delegated contract authority policy, and there's kind of really 6 key provisions that we're proposing to make some changes to. The first one I'll mention, and to align with the procurement policy mentioned earlier, is to delegate contract authority for a CEO to execute plans for contracts up to 150,000. So you'll notice again that 150,000 threshold is in alignment with the procurement policy that I just mentioned earlier. Another key provision here is giving staff the ability to apply for grant funding directly. So what that means is, should there be a grant opportunity, staff can apply for it, but it doesn't give staff the ability to accept and expend a grant. Accepting and expending a grant will still have to go through the board. If knock on wood, we're awarded any kind of grant funds. Another one on here, but the first one I should have mentioned is just non-dollar value agreements are delegated to the CEO or whomever the CEO designates. However, that does exclude certain non-dollar value agreements, such as certain MOUs or other types of agreements with other kind of local agencies that would still have to go to the board for approval. And probably the most important one there is just renaming the policy to the delegated contract and authority policy, just to provide a little more clarification. So with that said, Chair Yamani, those are kind of the key provisions on the update to the delegated contract authority policy. And again, this is a companion policy to the procurement policy, since they kind of go hand in hand in terms of kind of what they're trying to accomplish. And with that said, Chair Yamani, I will turn it back over to you for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. This is a recommend. So members, do we have any comment?
Just to make sure I understand. Okay, sorry. So the applying for the grant funding at this time, what is the process prior to this?
So I'll turn over to Vera here in a second. The joint powers agreement that we have is kind of vague in terms of what you can apply for grant agreements. So this makes it abundantly clear on what you can apply for. For most public agencies, the accept and expend clause is pretty clear because you don't want staff to accept and expend funds that might have certain provisions in it. So it's really a cleanup to be much more clear on what we can apply for and where the accept and expend authority lies. But I will turn over to you.
I think you explained it well.
So I just need to make sure I understand. So right now, currently, if staff sees a grant opportunity, it's kind of vague as to whether they can apply for it or not. And so it kind of goes unclaimed. Is that correct? Or just maybe?
Yeah, so through the chair, that's essentially correct. So it's the JPA that we have is vague on applying for grants. So this is making it just abundantly clear that staff can apply for grants. But again, the authority for accepting and expending a grant, right? It still gives that to the board just because, it's I think the example I had when I was in San Francisco was we got a huge grant from Ford, but it required all this different attribution requirement whereby Ford would put their logo across the city. And so, because of that, right, like you don't want staff to accept and expend a grant that, would paint the city with the logo. And so that's why, it still gives the board the ability to have discussion on whether or not something must be accepted and expended. That makes sense.
So if I could add, so generally speaking, the board has the authority to take all actions, right? Unless it has been expressly delegated to the CEO, and the CEO can then further self-delegate to staff as appropriate. So we did not clearly delineate a lot of these non-dollar value contract or non-dollar value delegations. We had explicit delegation for contracts, but it was unclear to what other action the everyday running of the business was delegated to the CEO. So, we speaking, of course, someone has to sign NDAs and that type of thing. So as part of our cleanup effort, though, for me, the best practice is to put this in the document where it's expressly delegated to staff. So that's the goal of this document.
So if staff identify grants, then they identify the grant and they might put in for it. Then once they get it, it comes to the board, and then the board decides whether we want to accept it or not.
There often
see.
is time though to when you get a grant opportunity to bring it to the board. So, and we may not receive it. So it would be ideal if the staff had express authority to apply for the grant, but then if we were to receive it, it would come to the board for permission to accept it.
Okay, thank you.
Member Susan? Thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. I think that, that's, clearer delegation. And I think we cannot also, grants are also very specific and very descriptive on how and when we can spend it, but we don't also want to lose it. So I think this will clarify that. And thank you for those comments, Vice Chair. So this is a recommend board adoption of resolution approving revisions to the delegated contract authority policy and rescinding resolution number 2022-10. I would like to entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. A motion by Vice Chair, second by Councilmember Zunza. If there are no other comments, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Director Insunza,
Yes.
Vice Chair Suzuki,
Aye.
Yamani.
Aye.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Are there any committee member announcements? Vice Chair, yeah, you have your event.
My events. Oh, I do. My events. Yes. Well, yes. Come to the farmers market, put money into our city, and then not forget our name.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Councilmember? Any announcements? Your e-bike, sir. Come on, let's do it. That's what we promote.
You insist. So these chambers, proud to say, I'll just talk about one of the main things I'm working on. But Chula Vista, California is the first city in the entire state to prevent children from under the age of 12 years old from operating any electric mobility vehicle, which is e-bike, e-scooter. No passengers, not yielding on streets. But we launched a 90-day campaign to educate our school districts. So we have cooperation with Sweetwater and Chula Vista school districts, even doing a pizza party for the elementary school, the entire school, whichever elementary school turns in the most pledges, that when they do turn 12 years old, they will wear their helmet, they won't have passengers, and they know what classifications the bikes are right. So I'm really proud because I know other cities have been following suit across the county. And I'm going to urge the governor and the local legislators that e-bikes, anything electric that's traveling 20 to 70 miles an hour should be banned across the entire state of California. We've had about 450,000 emergency room visits nationally in the last 2 years. Just in San Diego alone, the last 6 months of e-bike accidents is more than the combination of the last 5 years. We're not talking about scrapes and bruises when we were kids on bicycles and skateboards. We're talking about serious brain trauma, permanent brain trauma, and lacerations and several deaths. I've had 2 residents in Chula Vista die in the last 2 months in our city. And right now we have 2 high schoolers, 15 years old, riding on the bike together, went off an embankment on an e-bike. One's in very serious condition, and the other one's in critical condition, fighting for his life. So very sad. I'm proud that we passed them, but I'm very heartbroken that these accidents continue to happen. I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. I think it's it's a noble, initiative that's coming from you. Looking at it myself, council member, as you know.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we'll make sure that we keep our kids, safe out there. Thank you so much. Any comments from to my left, Director? Director Washington? Mr. Washington, Dr. Washington? No, okay. That brings us to the end of our agenda. I appreciate everyone's participation today. Thank you. The next regular FRMC meeting will be held on Thursday, October 16 at 3 p.m. and we are adjourned. Thank you so much.